A new majority and a new majority leader for Republicans in the Senate, and a lot of work to do. How will the new leader's approach differ than that of Mitch McConnell, and how will Republicans shepherd President Trump's nominees through the process? Let's ask Wisconsin Republican Senator and member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, Ron Johnson. Senator Johnson, thank you so much for making time for us today. It is a new day in the Senate. Talk to us about John Thune. There are some conservatives that were skeptical of Senator Thune. What are we to expect from him, and and how will he lead differently than Mitch McConnell?
Well, Tom, first of all, I support Rick Scott, not because I was opposed to John Thune or John Cornyn, but I thought Rick had a particular skill set, the success in the private sector that it would have brought better function to the United States Senate. But, we had a candidate forum the day before the vote, and pretty much all the candidates agreed that we needed a more collaborative approach. We've been under pretty much a one-man dictatorship under Mitch McConnell. I think the conference rejected that type of leadership style. And so now we'll have a more collaborative approach. John Thune guaranteed that he is all behind President Trump's agenda and do everything he can to implement it and enact it. So, again, we are a united conference. We want to see President Trump succeed, so we want to see John Thune succeed. He's a highly capable, highly articulate individual, so that's who the conference chose, and I will be everything I can do to support him.
President Trump has wasted no time, certainly nominating members of his new cabinet. He intends to have Governor Kristi Noem lead the Department of Homeland Security. That is your committee. What was your reaction to that nomination and his choice of Tom Homan as well to lead the administration's policy on the border?
Well, President Trump is serious about implementing his agenda. Promises made, promises kept. He certainly did that in his first administration. He intends to do that even more so, I think, in the second term. I remember when I ran in 2016 with President Trump on the ballot. I didn't know him that well, but what I knew of him, I used to compare him to the political equivalent of a disruptive technology. We need disruption in Washington, D.C. It is so ossified. Our federal government has grown so massive, and it's mortgaging our children's future. It's taking away our freedoms. It's crushing the private sector. President Trump fully understands that, and the people he's appointing to these agencies are there to disrupt those agencies, to skinny them down, to make them more streamlined, to make them respect the American public, to stop censoring Americans, to stop harming us, stop being captured by larger corporate interests, which is a big problem, where you have these regulatory agencies having been captured by the very businesses they're there to regulate. Instead, they're doing their bidding. That has to end.
Well, let's talk about that. During COVID, you had the courage to raise the alarm very early on about how the government was using the pandemic to restrict personal, religious, and economic freedom. You were outspoken in opposition to mandates, the misinformation, the censorship, the shoddy science. President-elect Trump has chosen Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead and reform the Department of Health and Human Services. Here's CNN's Jake Tapper, just one of many who is very quick to criticize the pick. Watch this.
Well, America, I hope you like measles.
It's a short clip, but it seems that they are back again trying to scare Americans to say something. I mean, what he just said was so incredibly reprehensible. I want to talk to you about your thoughts on the choice of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and what he can bring to the kind of reform that you were just discussing.
Well, I couldn't be happier for the selection. I got to know Bobby Kennedy during COVID. It was COVID that opened up my eyes. I ran in 2010 defending Big Pharma. I said, am I the only one that wants a new life-saving drug? We still need, drug manufacturers to create the scientific and medical breakthroughs. But what I've certainly noticed, and I think millions of Americans did see this, is Big Pharma has captured the very agencies that are supposed to regulate them. The reason they spend all this money on advertising isn't to advertise their drugs, it's to capture the narrative of the media. And so we've seen that capture, we've seen that corruption to the detriment of the American public. Bobby Kennedy understands that very well. And what Bobby Kennedy will be armed with is the truth. What Jake Tapper just talked about is misinformation. Anthony Fauci lied to the American public, lied to Bobby Kennedy, said, oh, yeah, that we have random controlled placebo trials of childhood vaccines. And then he couldn't produce one. So we've been lied to. We haven't even been able to ask the question, what has caused the explosion in autism, the explosion in chronic health. Yeah, I put on a event in end of September with Bobby Kennedy, and Dr. Chris Palmer made the statement, they don't want to discover the root cause. You know, big ag, big pharma, big food processing, you know, if they're doing something to contribute to these things, they don't want to know, and they've corrupted science and they've corrupted these federal health agencies who should be seeking the truth. Yeah. And so this whole effort is going to be seeking the truth, exposing it, and hopefully making America far healthier than we are today. I think Bobby Kennedy will be kind of like the person that'll be responsible for a healthy America than probably just anybody in history.
Senator, some of your colleagues have raised some concerns about some of President Trump's choices, particularly Matt Gaetz. But I want to ask you, I mean, there's a process here. This process will go on for the next couple of months. It's a vetting process. It's related to the legal process and the legal duty of the Senate. Don't all of these folks, one way or the other, deserve to be able to make their case and then get an up or down vote?
Absolutely. You know, the media comes and asks me immediately, are you going to vote for or against? I don't know this person. You know, okay, we've heard something about it. I haven't seen the reports. You know, we have to let the process play out and then have confidence, I guess, in Congress and the American public in terms of whether or not that individual should be confirmed or not.
Senator, Americans expect government to walk and chew gum at the same time. Sometimes that's very difficult. But the Senate certainly is going to be occupied with these confirmations. But from your perspective, from a policy perspective, what should be job one for the new Senate?
Well, obviously, the administration is going to be enacting executive orders, secure the border, a host of other things from taking executive action. From the standpoint of Congress, yes, we have to do the confirmations, but our big task is to make sure that we don't enact or don't allow an automatic $4.whatever trillion automatic tax increase to take effect in 2026. Now, from my standpoint, whatever we do, I want to make sure it's permanent so we don't face another one of these fiscal cliffs. I want to make sure that whatever we do will move our tax system toward a simpler, more rational system. I will tell you, there's nothing simple about simplifying our tax code. So I want to take our time. I think, and I'm talking to people, maybe we'll do a couple different reconciliation packages where, you know, we're not going to need the help of Democrats because I don't think we're going to get it. But, you know, maybe enact a smaller package of some of the promises President Trump made initially, and then take a little bit more time on the larger tax package. But the clock's ticking. We have to enact something to prevent a massive tax increase that automatically takes effect in 2026.
Senator Ron Johnson, thank you so much, sir. Always appreciate you being with us.